assertion you saw on the net and the reason you found this video. Vaccinations cause strokes or heart attacks. Worldwide, from 2010 to 2020, that's 10 years, 1 billion children were vaccinated. That's 100 million children a year on average. It goes up and down. In 2019, out of 116 million infants receiving 3 doses of DTP3 vaccine, that worked out to 85% of the people in a group. Now, this is an incomplete answer, which indicates strongly that it was a larger number than that got vaccinations, and it was 116 million that got that specific series of 3 doses. The reason these things are a problem is people don't tell you the total doses and any of the details. They just give you percentages and quick things to cut and paste to Facebook. But do these cause strokes, heart attacks, or anything like that? Blood clot-induced problems. In 2013, in the United States, children ages 19 to 35 months had this ratio. 99% received some kind of vaccination before they were 35 months old. This is how this should be interpreted. And after the age of 19 months, for specific reasons if you look up the schedules and recommended timings for these dosage. 92% had, by that point, in that range, received MMR vaccine. That tells you that almost all of them got it at a certain point, and some other vaccination was given later, or that was the only one, or some vaccination. Or not. Again, not broken down. Worldwide prevalence of stroke for 2010, 33 million. And the prevalence of individuals that had it as the first time was around 17 million. A little over half of the people had a stroke in 2010, first time. And a little under half, it was their second stroke or maybe the third. No age range given, but that's 1 year. What about in the United States? Why are strokes caused by vaccines only? Because vaccines cause strokes somehow. Let's continue. Per year, Americans have 795,000 strokes. There's 795,000 Americans each year have a stroke, and 130,000 die from it at 16% death rate. What that means is if you take the ratio at 33 million people worldwide, we get 1/33 of it. So it's like 3% of the strokes worldwide happen in the United States. We could say that. And we could say probably about half of them it's their second stroke. Let's just do that. Each time it happens, they have a 16% death rate. 1990 to 2010, that's 20 years, yes? Out of all Americans vaccinated, there's a claim of an epidemic of strokes caused by vaccines. $300 cases in 20 years. That works out to 15 per year out of over 500,000 strokes per year. 15 people a year had a stroke that we can try to associate with a vaccination. These strokes range from birth to 94 years of age with a mean age of 42 years old, but we can't list comorbidities like they had some medical problem or it was their second stroke. They had a vaccine treatment within 6 weeks of vaccination, 98% of them. 83% were within 2 weeks of the vaccination. We're getting really fine-grained numbers for only 300 cases in a 20-year period of time, or 15 per year, out of 795,000 Americans that have a stroke each year, 15 average in this anti-vax article that a lot of people are quoting. How many people are vaccinated per year? You know, cold and flu shot, the flu shot, and also normal vaccinations like you think of. And then someone will frogs gay below that one or the other thing is more important because they're losing an argument. Flu shot vaccinations were associated in 40% of the cases. 13% of them were hepatitis B, 6% were DTaP, and only 4% had, within a reasonable period of time, to associate it with more than one vaccination injection. So it's mostly flu vaccine. And what about the missing percentages? Unknown. How is it unknown, but you're including in the proof that measles vaccine causes stroke? The mean age is 42 years of age, and it goes up to 94. The presumption that these have to be for the children when you have 15 per year average out of 195,000 Americans each year having a stroke. With a 16% death rate, you're worried about the comorbidity of vaccines in a tiny number. How many doses of vaccinations are given in the United States per year? Well, from 2006 to 2016, that's 10 years, 3 billion doses were used on patients in the United States for all vaccinations totaled. That worked out to 315 million a year being vaccinated. So over a 20-year period of time, that would work out to 6 billion doses. And worst case scenario, 300 people out of 6 billion injections caused a stroke. And this is an anti-vax group trying to collect these numbers and make them very significant. Well, if they failed to prove a point, it's because it's being suppressed. (1988 to 2018), 88, 98, 2008, 2008, 13, that's 30 years. The National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, which would do a payout if you had a stroke induced by this, even if you were still alive, had around less than 1,000 complaints per year on average during that period of time. Out of 19,000 petitions filed over a 30-year period of time, I'm probably wrong here, 17,000, almost 18,000, were for injury. 1,200 were for death. And out of that bunch, 11,000 out of the 19,000 were dismissed as frivolous or stupid or not being able to be associated with a vaccine, failing to show a vaccine was involved, or failing to show significant injury. I think stroke would qualify. So, compensation. Out of 19,000 petitions, 2,000 were, 2,400, excuse me, were for the flu shot. 1,200 were for DTP, and 397 were for MMR vaccine. So, the vast number of vaccine-related injury, not death, it wasn't listing death, it being a significant component, were for the flu shot, which states right on the package it can cause an illness. You can, if you take this, and you right away your right to sue, but they did it anyway. And these were compensation out of court by just saying, look, you're whining enough, it's probable, it's within a certain period of time, okay, we'll give you some money. You know, a flu shot contamination could be included. Flu shots are changed every year. The DTP and MMR vaccines, these are the three top ones of actual non-dismissed cases. It's 11,000 out of almost 20,000, but it's 19,000. And the top three in the tiers are flu shot, followed by DTP, and then MMR. Now, that's over the same period of time, right? Well, it's about the same period of time. At 315 million per year, over a 30-year period of time, 315 million per year, you get about 1,000 people a year who complain about some complication. They're not deaths. The vast majority out of 19,000 complaints were about not deaths, but injury. That's based on the people who were compensated. And almost, I mean, it's a ridiculous ratio. It was the flu shot. They've adapted the flu shot compensation to what was originally standard immunizations kids got. There was a peak in 1990 to 1991 for complaints, 2003 to 2004 for complaints, and 2016 to 2017. There aren't any peaks just in a single year. They're at the connection between the two. That's the cold and flu season. Those were peaks that were 10 to 1 because of flu shots. 80% of which were dismissed for those years outright because they were found to be fraudulent complaints. Because someone set up a slush fund to pay off people who complained about having an injury associated with any kind of vaccine, and the vast majority of petitions by people wanting to get money out of this thing were for the flu shot. By a ratio of almost exactly, actually it's I would say 70%. And we have people saying, well, these strokes are caused by the vaccine. Vast majority. It's an epidemic. 795,000 Americans each year have a stroke. They have a 16% chance of death, but someone wants to look at 15 per year and say it's caused by vaccines. And even in the cases where people were able to try to connect the dots, being anti-vaxxers, they lost over half of the database magically because the other category didn't include vaccines. It included something else. When you look up what they cite, it has nothing to do with vaccines, because even they weren't able to claim that. And again, the flu vaccine was the only one shown to have a nearly 4 to 1 ratio likelihood of causing a problem. It was actually 3 to 1, really, 3 point something. And that's where you get most of the complaints. And even then, even during peaks, and it's obviously during flu season, 80% of these were dismissed. These are simply claims. They're not based on finding a real connection or proving it. And again, this vaccine slush fund, this payout system, is designed on purpose to pay out not based on merits of a case that would be brought up in court. And when you look it up, most of the cases were adjudicated outside of it. I mean, not even adjudicated. They were just done by people presenting enough evidence that a person would say that it would result, this is the criteria. If it's likely to result in a lengthy court case, you pay. Yes, it's a Fight Club reference. If it's not likely to result in anybody being able to get a payout or whatever, you don't pay them. Basically, if they don't present a case that would at least result in somebody reasonably thinking, okay, this sounds right, you don't get anything. These were people that didn't even try in some cases. And that was also during cold and flu season. 80% of the cases during the peaks were found to be wrong and said, you can go ahead and sue, and did not result in court cases. If it was likely to result in a jury maybe being able to do so. I want to point out a recent thing that happened. If you're not aware of it, court cases are based on would a jury deciding a medical subject they don't know anything about believe that something was true even if it was medically incorrect. It's happened recently with glyphosate. Yeah. Juries don't have to know what they're talking about. Well, we're jury of our peers. Yes, for guilt or innocence about something we all understand, self-defense versus murder. We're talking about a claim here that vaccines cause strokes when it's 15 out of 795,000 cases might be related to it. And when we look up the vaccine involved, it's the fucking flu vaccine, and it's still a ridiculously tiny number. The number of vaccine doses per year is around 315 million, but per year the number of complaints is less than 1,000 people at all. That's not even counting the fact that they have an 80% chance of not being able to prove their point in court. If you base it on court cases, this is stupid. If you base it on science, we don't even have the discussion. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with all of that.